today's video, I'm going to show you how to build your own greenhouse base from paving slabs. It's fairly straightforward, affordable, and it should only take a few hours depending on the size of the patio you're building. This guide will be broken down step by step to help you do the same. It's very easy, takes a little bit of work preparing the ground and getting it level, but it's rather straightforward. Here are some before and after photos so you get an idea of what I'm about to build. So just recently I ordered a new Palaram greenhouse and I needed to build a new base for it. I decided to go down the route of using paving slabs as it would be very easy to install and give a good and solid level base. So the first thing I had to do was decide what size a patio base would be. As my new greenhouse was only around 6 foot by 4 foot, I decided that the base would need to be 7 foot 2 by 5 foot 7, so it was going to be a little larger than the greenhouse and it would fit perfectly within the space where the greenhouse was actually going to be sited. So the patio flags I decided to use were 44 centimetres by 44 centimetres, and the base would actually be 5 flags wide by about 4 flags deep. Now there are several ways you can do this, but I decided the ground was fairly compact so I would not need to use a sub base. I went for a dry mix of concrete and sand that would be around 30 to 40 mil deep, and then I would sit the paving slabs on top of this dry mix base. Now, if the ground was soft or I was building a heavier greenhouse, I'd probably put down a sub base of hardcore, probably MLT Type 1, before the dry mix. Now in my case, by using the dry mix laid directly on top of the topsoil, it would be easier to lay the patio slabs and the moisture from the ground would set the concrete overnight. So off I went to B&Q to pick up some flags, some cement, some grit sand and a length of 2x3 inch of timber, what I'd use for tamping later down the line. The other tools I would also need were a spade, a rubber mallet and a spirit level, but I already had these to hand. The first thing I did was mark out the area with some pegs and string so I knew where to dig when I was creating the foundations. If the ground was already level, you could also just lay your flags out where you want the base to be and then mark around the flags with pegs and string. Once I had the area marked, I started to dig the foundations by removing all the weeds. I got the ground as level as I could with the spade. I also removed some turf as well as raked the ground level, get it nice and level, and it also helped me get rid of some of the larger stones which I was able to remove and get rid of. With the ground dug out and the foundations fairly level, I used a 5 foot piece of timber to tamp the ground as flat as possible and dragged it slowly from front to back to get the ground as level as I possibly could. I had to do this a few times to get the ground so it was compact and level as possible. This is where it really does start to take shape and you can see exactly where your base is going to be and the ground starts to look nice and level and you could really get a good idea, appreciate the work you've done. I also positioned a spirit level on top of a piece of wood to ensure it was totally level. This step is very important and it's all about the preparation, so I took my time to get this really spot on as I could. If the ground isn't level, you'll never get the patio level and the greenhouse needs a level base or else you'll have all sorts of problems down the line, such as the frame starting to buckle or even struggling to build the greenhouse because nothing will line up. And worse, later down the line, you can actually get windows that start to crack if the base is not level and the greenhouse starts to move. The next thing I did was lay the patio flags in the foundation to check the slabs fit in there perfectly before I set them in place permanently. This is when I had a chance to check that all the paving slabs were going to fit in there perfectly. With the ground ready, I started to mix the dry mix. I decided that a ratio of 6 parts sand to 1 part cement would be okay for this job. All I needed to do was mix 6 shovels of sharp sand with 1 shovel of cement and mix it all together. I then shoveled the dry mix into the foundations until it was around 30 to 40 mil thick. I had to do this quite a few mixes to get enough dry mix to get a good bed down. I then raked the foundation again to get the dry mix as level as possible, ready for laying the paving slabs. This next bit is when it all really starts to come together. Starting in the furthest corner, I laid the flags, making sure they were level with the spirit level and using a rubber mallet to gently tap them down to get them as level as possible. As I move on to the next slab and then the next slab, I continue using the spirit level to make sure they are completely level from the flag to flag. That's it, finally. I gave it a good rinse off to clean the paving slabs and the water going between the flags will help the dry mix set. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to smash that like button as it really does help me out. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel as I release new videos just like this. I also do garden reviews and DIY tutorials. And thanks for watching.